Hey guys, just a couple of days ago, the Pokémon Presents video revealed the next major Pokémon game, Pokémon Legends Z through A. Since what was supposed to be my February video is just gonna take a little while longer, I figured today I'd share my thoughts and hopes for this upcoming game with you guys. But first, if you're watching this video on release, then I might be streaming. I'm taking part in the 2024 Pokémon Global Challenge as my first ever competitive tournament, and I'm gonna be streaming it. I'll be live today starting, well, right now. Today through Saturday, I'll be streaming from 7 o'clock till around 11, and I'm using an incredibly silly team for the tournament. So if that's up your alley, then come check me out. twitch.tv/VulcarinitePlays. Alright, that's done. Now, my thoughts on this upcoming Pokemon game. First and foremost, this name sucks. Pokémon Legends is already a pretty busy series title, but the Z through A? Really? Is this a Kingdom Hearts spinoff? Most main series Pokemon games were released in pairs, Red and Blue, Gold and Silver, Ruby and Sapphire, etc. Two versions of the same game. And for most of Pokemon's history, a third game would release a year or two later, Yellow, Crystal, Emerald. These games were typically half game patches, half expansions. They were sort of like DLC before it was cool. Now, if a Pokemon game wants to expand, it actually just does use DLC for these titles. But back in the days of the Game Boy, DLC wasn't really a thing that existed, so an entirely new game had to be released. Following the release of X and Y in 2013, most people were expecting to see this third version release. Black and White, the main series pair that immediately preceded X and Y, got direct sequels instead of expansions, so that was also on the table. But most were expecting the incredibly flawed X and Y to get a version Z, one that would complete the story, patch the holes of the Kalos region, and flesh out the world a little bit more. But instead of that, we got nothing. The fabled Pokémon Z never came to pass. Many have searched for what became of it. There's some leftover code in future games that alludes to the fact that the Z version, or even a set of sequels, were once planned. Some of the features that would have been in these sequels were simply rolled into future games. But for this reason, Pokémon Z never existed. Pokémon Z became an actual Pokémon legend. Like, a legend in our world. That's pretty cool, right? But instead of calling the game Pokémon Legends Z and letting the title do the heavy lifting of reviving it, they tack on some punctuation to confuse us and make the game just a bit more annoying to talk about. Pokémon Legends Z through A. Oh well, it's not that big a deal I guess, just a bit disappointing. Anyway, here's what we know along with what I'm hoping to see from this upcoming game. Pokémon Legends Z through A, which I'll be shortening to Legends Z for ease, is the second game in the Legends semi-side series after Pokémon Legends Arceus. This game allowed us to explore the Sinnoh region in a different time and told a different story set there. It was much more focused on the single-player exploration and collecting than the typical Pokémon games focus on trading and battling, and was designed to make traversal and collecting as engaging as possible. This time, Legends Z will be taking place in the Kalos region. Specifically, the game will take place exclusively within the bounds of the biggest city of that region, called Lumiose City. The trailer talks about an urban redevelopment plan for the city, and the neon lights and animation style of the trailer makes me, and many others, think that this game is taking place in the future. That's really cool. I'm excited to explore a cyber-Punkemon world. Beyond that, we know that Mega Evolution is making a comeback. The Mega Evolution logo appeared at the end of the trailer just to tease us. I also love this. Mega Evolution remains an idea that I think has a lot of potential, so its reintroduction here is very exciting. I'm looking forward to this game a lot. You might remember this tier list that I sort of offhandedly featured in the Magic World Building and Pokemon's Biggest Failure video, where I placed Legends Arceus in the S tier. I really didn't think that hard about this list, and I've played a handful more Pokemon games since I made it. My opinions have changed somewhat, so I don't think I still agree with this list. Legends Arceus, in particular, was raised high by recency bias, so I'd probably move it down a tier. The main things that I struggled with were an incredibly long, painfully boring opening, and a relatively bland world. For a game that's supposed to encourage you to explore, it was a little disappointing to see completely separate regions of the world be basically indistinguishable, save for the Pokemon inhabiting them. That said, the process of finding and catching wild Pokemon, and the changes made to the battling with the strong/agile style moves were fantastic. Once I made it out of the story and was focused on hunting down Pokemon, I was having an absolute blast. I do wish this game handled a little better, though it's liquid smooth compared to what came next, but that only very rarely bothered me. My main hope for Legends Z is that it continues to focus on the single-player exploration and capturing process. Crafting and using Pokeballs on the fly, being able to use certain items to hide from or interact with Pokemon in the world, and running around on the backs of Pokemon were all fantastic features that I really want to come back into the fold. Having that core of exploration and capturing remain intact is vital. That said, I do hope that the world is much more dynamic. This game takes place within a city, so its different districts with different themes/biomes seems like it could be a great way to handle this. It almost seems like the Terrarium in the Scarlet and Violet DLC was a sort of precursor to this, a big, round world quartered into discrete biomes. Hopefully, Lumio City will have this vibe too. I'd also love a more active way to influence the world. In Legends Arceus, you're thrown to the distant past, where there's only one major settlement in the entire region. I would have thought that contributing to the safety and construction of new settlements around the region could be pretty natural additions to the game, but that never really came to be. Being able to build things in the city would be awesome. Maybe some sort of disaster destroys a section of the city, so you have to get Pokemon with certain traits and abilities to help restore and rebuild the area, making it in your own image and giving you a stronger connection to the world. That would really be amazing. In Legends Arceus, you have very specific ride Pokemon. While this was neat, and I did appreciate having several different kinds of traversal in the game, having these Pokemon be separate to your own Pokemon made them much less personable. I've been playing Palworld, and though that game has many problems, ones that you might hear me whine about in the next couple of weeks, hint hint, click click, it does allow you to catch and ride pals that are yours, which could foster your connections with them. I hope Legends Z incorporates something like this. Next, please let the story be skippable or ignorable. I'm literally begging for this one. I almost gave up on Legends Arceus because 3 hours in, I had scarcely a single moment of unscripted exploration or freedom, and I was afraid that the whole game would be like this. I'm sorry to say this, but I've never been interested in a Pokemon game's story. No, not even Black and White, not even Scarlet and Violet. If you have, that's fantastic, and I'm almost a little jealous that you had a more engaging experience than I did. But for me, the plots are just a drag. Please let the story be skippable or minimal. I genuinely rather the story be skippable than good by my own standards. And though I will experience the story on my first playthrough no matter what, I do want the option to blitz by it for the game to have any replayability for me. Finally, Mega Evolution. I love the concept of Mega Evolution, clearly, and I'm excited to see it come back. My favorite instances of Mega Evolution were those that seemed to complete a flawed Pokemon's design or capabilities. Beedrill, Kangaskhan, Mawile, Banette, Altaria, and Absol all top the list of being Pokemon that had potential that Mega Evolution unlocked. If they do add more Mega Evolutions, which I'm actually not convinced that they will, I want them to abide by 2 rules. The first is to not give already powerful Pokemon their own Mega Evolutions. We don't need another Mega Rayquaza on our hands after all. There's a certain Fiery Moth Pokemon that you might think I'd like a Mega Evolution for, but actually don't. I want them to focus on Pokemon that, in their current form, stop short of their potential. Think Flygon, Zoroark, Mismagius, Vikavolt, the Pokemon that need something else to be more powerful and useful. We don't need a Mega Goldengo, we need Mega Cloth. Second, I hope they don't use Mega Evolutions to replace regional/convergent variants. The regional variations of Pokemon are, in my opinion, one of the best gimmicks they've ever come up with, and I want it to stick around basically forever. If they do the starters like they did in Legends Arceus, with 3 starters from different regions coming together, I'd personally much rather see them get collision forms than Mega Evolutions. Mega Evolutions are cool, but regional variants feel much more natural and less transient. Alright, I think I'll leave it at that. Overall, I'm really looking forward to Legends Z. It was an unexpected game that already has me thinking about its potential in a way that the leaked remakes of Black and White never would have. The game is releasing in 2025, so there's plenty of time for Game Freak to continue development, flesh out ideas, and maybe even patch out performance bugs. I hope that this game is genuinely excellent. Please be sure to subscribe for the video coming out in just a couple of weeks, and head on over to Twitch if you're interested in joining me in the Pokemon tournament. But that's all I've got for you today, so enjoy your day and take care.